Can everyone hear us okay? Malia, can you do a sound check?
Sound check. Hello, hello.
Okay, thank you. Malia. So she's working remotely for most of this week. It's a couple days off. And Elizabeth.
Never heard of me, man. I think it's hot to hear. All right, I guess we're past 4 o'clock and we can get swollen. All right, so we'll start off our Bluff Town Council meeting for Tuesday, August 18th. It's 4:01. We'll start with the roll callers, starting with Britt Hornsby,
Jennifer Davila.
Josh Ewing,
Spencer Wade,
Gary Haas.
Karen Nelson serving as town manager.
And we do have Malia online. Just talk about some minutes that were in our packet. We'll first talk about the minutes from August 4th, the regular town council meeting. Does anyone have any comments? I have a couple, but I'll defer to others if you have any other comments. Anything? My suggestion is, it's on page 2 when we were talking about the rules of procedure and so forth. There's a sentence that says 10-3-606 Utah State Rules. Oops, no, I lost it. It's changed. 10-3-606 Utah State Rules of Order and Procedure. Also proves that the council should have been involved in the decision. I don't think that was said during the meeting. I actually asked for a citation and one was not provided. And that code reference is actually no longer valid. That was removed in 2011. So I would suggest that we just remove that sentence or amend it to say something like, Mr. Haas suggested that the rules, something like that, versus saying a specific code, which doesn't say what that says it.
Well,
This is line, it would be like the 6th line down on the page 2.
yeah. Suggested, how would you like me to phrase that?
I don't know, I mean, maybe up to Gary, how he want to phrase what he said. But it just like, it states as a fact that that code says something, and that code isn't even a valid code. So, I mean, the easiest thing would just be to remove that. But it could be Mr. Haas stated that Utah rules and orders of procedure says that the council should have been involved. I mean, I think that summarizes what you were saying.
yeah, because I didn't give you a code.
Yeah.
Right then.
Maybe fall in there.
Mhm.
Just because if you look that up, it'll say, this is no longer code. It's been subsumed by this other code.
The Utah State Rules of Order and Procedure dictated.
Yeah. And that way, if it's, I think that actually, he was saying that, so that was, proper. reference.
Malia did call me after that. I said that it was in the state code under rules and procedure, but I don't think it was for a specific code number at the time.
Yeah.
But I might have, but that was after.
Is that correction okay? Gary fairly represent the discussion. And then how about on the August 11th minutes? I just have one suggestion. Anyone else? So my only suggestion is, again, on page 2, it's the 4th line down. It says accrual rate discussed ad infinitum. And I don't know, I just, to me, that's a little bit too much editorial, I would say, you know, if we want to say something like it was a long discussion about accrual rate or something, but. You know, wasn't a like infinitely long discussion,
Discussed at length.
discussed at length or something, maybe that. That good? Yeah. Okay, anything else on the minutes? Okay, hearing no further, all in favor of approving those two sets of minutes as amended, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've approved those minutes.
We do a public comment.
I got it down, just down a minute on the agenda. We had one more item, and we'll grab that. Our next thing is to welcome Charmaine Sandoval, who has joined us to help keep our minutes in order and keep things above board and get things ADA accessible and all the things. So we don't expect that you're going to be in person at every meeting, but I really appreciate you being willing to come up. And I would encourage any council members that didn't get a chance to meet her, maybe introduce yourselves before we leave. Anything else you want to add in, Erin?
Well, we are just so excited to have Charmaine join us. She had a lot of really wonderful experience when we did the interview process, and I want to thank everyone who did apply. We really appreciated the interest in the role, but we are excited to have Charmaine join us. She's currently going to be working on like getting the note taking and all of those processes and procedures under her belt, but she's also starting down the path of the training for the ADA compliance. She's already asked a lot of really great questions. But yes, as Josh mentioned, the benefit to our huge plus for this position is we're not expecting her to be here for every meeting, but she's going to try to be at the planning and zoning meeting on Thursday as well, just to meet those folks. And then the one thing that we talked about in the interview and we discussed a little bit is if for any reason, you know, she needs clarification, she might just pause during the meeting. Hey, you know, can you restate that? But I think it should be great. So yes, Charmaine, do you want to say anything? Not to put you on the spot.
I'm really excited for the venture, and it's great to meet you guys and hoping to get to know each one of you.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you, Charmaine. And then a little bit of just belated thanks for Jen for stepping in on the interviews and helping out with Erin on that. Really appreciate when council members help out with those roles. So that is very much appreciated. All right, thank you. We will now move on to the public comment period. Thanks, Spencer. If anyone online wants to make a public comment, let's see if there's anybody online. If you could just put your name in the chat or raise your hand if you'd like to make a public comment. And we will start with anyone here here live who wants to make a comment. Linda, you want to make a public comment?
Yes.
We welcome you to do so. And then if anyone else online, put your name in the chat. So go ahead.
I am Linda Sosa, which is SOSA. I'm a local resident and I'm here to express my thoughts about health leave. My suggestion is 10 days a year and with a cap of 30 days. By having rollover and a cap, it allows staff to create their own bank of health leave so that if, you know, you have lots of years if you're really healthy, then you have a year that, you know, just is not good. And so they have their own bank. I worked for the school district for 22 years. We had 10 days a year. Our cap was 150 days, which was great, but I would suggest it for you guys. People fell into two categories. There were a few people in the middle, but generally the staff took every one of their 10 days or almost none if they're 10 days. Those were the two groups, and it's kind of a personality thing. I mean, we have the ability to work remotely, work part. We have different options. But having rollover made it feel like you had more of a choice, that you weren't pressured to take your time before the end of the year. You were more in charge, and our staff, this is full-time staff, of course, is highly professional anyway, so, so basically, those are my thoughts, thank you.
I really appreciate you coming in, value your perspective on that. We're gonna have a robust discussion about the benefits. It's our main agenda item tonight, so thanks for weighing in on that. I'm not seeing anyone else for comment online, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And jump right into that unfinished business of employee benefits. As a preference, and I just, figure I start off with this. This is kind of complex, and rather than like putting forward like a whole slate of a policy and just like an up and down vote on the policy, I thought it'd be helpful for us to kind of discuss and vote on each one. I hate it like at the federal level when it's like they put in the defense bill some like really crazy dumb thing about public lands or something like that, and it's like people are forced to like vote against the defense bill or for or something crazy. And I thought this way we could, maybe someone has a concern about one of the things, we can get to the bottom of it. My thinking being is that this will be kind of a vote. If this is not a vote on a formal policy, because we haven't put a formal policy in front of you, but it will give the guidance to the staff to be able to start working on a formal written policy that embodies what we vote on tonight, and then also start the work on, for example, getting health insurance started. What I didn't want to do is like have to have like a 20-page document or something before we contact BHP and start the process of getting folks covered with insurance. So that was kind of my thought. I really appreciated Gary taking the time to write in with some suggested alternatives to what we had discussed last week. And so I put those on the agenda as kind of like what I'm kind of proposing to vote on, and then what Gary proposed. So I think, there's from a procedural standpoint, I think the cleanest thing would be to vote like yes or no on the mayoral proposal. Instead of like voting like who votes for this versus who votes for that. So if a mayoral proposal were to fail, then there would be a second issue on the table, a second proposal on the table. But I also thought like it would be helpful for you to see that proposal rather than have it be live in the meeting. So like if you're like, I like that proposal, I'll vote against the mayor proposal, and then be able to vote for Gary's proposal. Does that sound like a reasonable way to proceed with the decision making?
I would like to talk about some of them as we go too, though.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion on each one. So yeah, we're not gonna go like rapid fire go through. I think, each of us have probably had some chance to think about some of these things, and we even got, valuable input from a formal council member just now. So, that may be good for us to discuss. So if it's okay with y'all, I would just go through as we have them on the agenda and discuss each one, vote on each one. And then and see where we get, and if these don't accurately represent where we come to as a council, we can always like tweak them as well. Anything, Aaron or anyone else to add on process there?
No.
So health insurance being the first one, we talked about PHP and the general, I think, consensus is to use PHP since it allows us to tap into an insurance pool that other state employees get. And the question really is not if we're going to help pay for employees' insurance, but really how much of their insurance we would pay for. So the proposal we put forward last time, and then I would say would be my proposal is that we would cover 100% of the top HSA plan premium for full-time employees. So that is essentially about a middle of the pack plan offered by PEHP. There are more expensive plans and there are less expensive plans. So that would be my proposal is we pay for 100%. Gary suggested paying for, a little less, 80%. And so I would open the floor to discussion on thinking, what folks' thoughts might be about those two alternatives. And, then we can have a vote on it.
So I have reached out to the woman who I've been speaking with since for like the last 8 months. To get some clarification on the statement that was in the proposal. And she did reiterate that if you all were to choose to go through PEHP, that you all make the choice. You either do 100% of the employee's premium, or you do 50% of whatever the employee chooses, whatever plan type they choose, if they choose single, double, or family. So those are the two options with PEHP specifically. And because of the size of our entity, you all would only be able to choose like one level. So if you're saying, and employees can only participate at that one level. So you would be choosing, if you're going through that and you're choosing the level, and then are you choosing 100% contribution, or are you choosing the 50% of whatever type the employee wants?
So I'm not sure I understand the 50% is, you're understanding, would it be like, okay, if an employee elected to cover their family, so let's say there's 2 people in the family, the town would cover 50% of both people?
Correct.
So, and if there were 3 people, it would be 50% of 3 people, and 10 people would be 50% of 10 people?
Yep.
Or you could pay 100% of the employee, but not anyone else.
That is correct.
And then that employee would have the option of adding their other family members, but they have to.
They-
At their own
pocket.
They have to pay that.
Can they pay out of their own pocket to go up a plan or get a better plan? They're stuck at that.
They're
plan.
stuck at that
So if
plan.
it's HSA,
Like whatever you're choosing, that's what you would go with. And PHP said, because they're a nonprofit company, and they follow the same eligibility requirements as URS. So only employees who are eligible, who are averaging 20 hours a week, would be eligible to get health insurance through them. So there is not the option with PHP for limited part-time or part-time employees under 20 hours a week to be able to receive any kind of health insurance through PHP.
So they would have, at a minimum, they would have to be part-time employees.
Correct, yeah, part-time, clearly, there would be like another benefit, like the individuals in this group are averaging 20 hours a week, they would have some other paid benefit as well to be eligible, which is why the PHP and URS usually go time. Because they would be covered for both.
So I guess like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about the new information, but. So I guess you could see a scenario where paying 50% could be more expensive than paying 100%. If a person had a larger family. But it could also be less, it could be essentially the same. If it was like, the person only had one person they were putting on.
it's just not fixed. It could be, you know what I mean? It could change depending on the employee.
Depending on the employee and how many people
They
they.
decide to do. I mean, with that information, I'm now leaning more to covering 100% of the employee. Honestly, just for planning budget, but then I guess my concern then is being locked in at that plan.
So you can only pick one plan for all employees? So like planning has
Just-
50 employees, they can
No.
only have one, or
It's,
just because we're
it's
small?
because we're small. We have under 9 employees who would be eligible.
And that's why I was saying I was glad that we have something at all to go to and we're not just going straight market. Because we're so small.
I mean, the reason why I had suggested that one is just like. It, for me, it feels like, it's kind of a middle ground policy, so it's not the bare bones, but it's also not the premium one. And it also allows people who don't use much insurance to be able to access an HSA and the benefits of an HSA.
I mean, I like the plan, I just, I guess I had in mind that.
We could
That
pick
they
something
could
else.
pay the employee to pick up anything out of that 100 past that plan. So that's
And
just.
that's what you would normally, it seems like under a larger employee, you can usually do that, but it sounds like we're just limited because of how small we are.
So if we did go with that option, paying 100% for the employee, would they still be able to add their family to the plan? They would just have to pay 100% of each individual in their family.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And those people would also need to be on that same plan. On that.
Correct, yeah, they would not have the option to go to a traditional or go to a different HSA.
I mean, I guess I still lean toward that 100% too. It's like we have certainty of how much it's gonna cost. It's a reasonable but not premium plan.
Makes it easy to budget.
I mean,
And we,
as long as you know how many full-time employees we have, you
Yeah.
gotta know what it's gonna be.
yep. And it would be something, I mean, we could continue to look around, like, I don't know, is this the absolute only option? So I'm saying we could get something. Going, is this like a 1-year commitment, like?
So I think we would lock in for the rest of 2026, and then we'd go through open enrollment for the full calendar year. Probably in October, November.
Okay.
Well, that being the case, maybe we should just go with the 100% for the employee.
I spoke with the same January person this morning. And also Joel Shepherd, the marketing director. And what they're doing, because we are so small, we have to join a pool of small towns. And they don't want us shopping every year to try to better what they're offering. They want us to lock in, there's a 7-point-something%. If both of them said that, well, Joel said that the 100% was put in there several years ago so that small towns like us wouldn't default on them. And that we had skin in the game, is what his words were. And both him and January said, we can do anywhere between 50% and 100% for single, or for double, or for family. We're not specifically locked in. If we did do, say, 50%, for a single, that's split it in half, so that'd be $282 out of the employee's pocket for it. And then 50% of the double would be $584 out of the employee's pocket for it, and the family would be $790. So it's just like half the premium. I just did it off the 50 because that's the bottom rung. I mean, we could do it off 80%, which would increase our payment. And move it up, it would increase just up with the family. Both of them said that most government agencies do not offer 100%. Joel said he could not think of any off the top of his head that offered 100%.
So planning doesn't? Wasn't that what we were talking about? Last time, was that planning offered 100 and then like 100 to family members?
I
reached out to Blandy and they haven't got back to me.
Oh.
But he didn't know of any that did 100%. San Juan County has a percentage, San Juan School percentage. Even PHP has their employees pay a percentage of the premium. They don't even offer 100%. I think if we were a money-making business and profitable, I could see upping it to 100% maybe, but I believe 80% is more realistic. Which motivates the employee also.
Did you happen to ask, so if you choose option two, or here, I'll phrase it as option two, so employer contribution rates, option two, employer contributes a minimum of 50% of the single, double, and family. So did you verify if you can do a different percentage for family versus single? So if you choose option two and you say you're gonna do 80% of the single, can you then do 50% for the family?
I didn't verify, but I'll bet you'd be locked into, if you do 80% of the single, usually what they do is they take that and put it against the double. And then you'd pay the additional on that, and then that against the family. And those figures I threw out, I just went off the PHP thing that you sent to us.
Yeah. That's why I asked you
Just
to
for
put
an
it in
idea.
there, so we had, a sense of.
Yeah.
And we had shown some of the numbers for. I guess my sense overall is just that. For me, with the goal being, we have a small town, losing staff is a really big deal. In my view, it's worth like a little bit extra money to just say, hey, we're gonna cover the 100% of the employee, like. In the overall scheme of our town budget, roughly $500,000. $1,000, $1,500 here or there, between 80% and 100 is not a big difference. I mean, yeah, I that, and like 80, between 80 and 100 is not a big difference. Either way, but I would just kind of lean toward like making it simple, like, hey, we will cover all, this not premium plan, but this level plan. But I think that's the question, is like, essentially, do you want the employees to have some skin in the game versus covering the full percent?
I mean, I like the idea of paying 100%. I mean, I think valuing our employees and trying to take care of them as much as we can is super important.
And then if they bump it up to a double, do we cover 100% there?
I would suggest it's just the employee. But we only cover the employee. Just cause like, we can't, if we go down the realm of 100% of all your, that could get, especially, then who knows, you hire someone that's got 12 kids and now you're paying a huge number. You don't want to discriminate, and just, I think it keeps it simple if it's just the employee.
I mean, I'm fine with 100. I would like just for our information to find out what planning there.
Yeah.
Because
I pulled up, so Pratt, their city manager, said that. Medical, dental, and vision, the city pays 100% full cost of these for each full-time permanent employee and their family. They estimated at $30,000 essentially to cover. They also have life insurance, retiree insurance, COBRA, and then in lieu, Blanding City offers employees an in lieu option where they can elect $12,000 to $15,000 paid family benefit if their spouse has benefits, and no one uses theirs. So they will pay you if you're not on their insurance, but they cover everyone in the family, 100%.
Yeah, so it's not that big, a big one. But basically, it says they're trying to, use that as a retention.
oh yeah, no.
But it's apples and oranges. I mean, clearly they have a much larger budget than we do. So.
Yeah, they have a lot.
But it's
I'd be curious to see what a town of our size, what they do.
Also,
I mean, I
that
can't compare apples to oranges, Blanding's a lot bigger.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess where I'm comfortable saying like the apples and oranges, we pick up 100% of one employee. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So. That makes me feel.
Essentially, at the moment, we're committing to cover full insurance for 2 people. we grow, then, that increases. I don't ever see us have, a ton of full-time employees.
The
But
only one could be the emergency services coordinator position if they're averaging more than 20 hours a week. And then they
our
would be-
policy that we present is 36 hours a week is full-time.
But that's not how, if you go through PHP, you have
have
to use
to.
their eligibility requirements, that if the person.
That anybody above 20 qualifies.
And same with URS.
So we are not allowed to only provide it to full-time employees.
You have to go through their requirement settings.
That's crazy. I just don't even believe it. So any town that's on PHP, if you work 21 hours, you get full-time. If you do it, you get healthcare coverage. So like
If
any.
you
part-time
average
employee-
I think you say it was prorated in there. On the insurance and the state retirement.
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
I mean,
prorated.
okay, not prorated, but it's based on their hours.
Mhm.
So if it's a 21-hour person versus a 36-hour person, there's a difference in there on the.
Is there, I don't know,
I-
I don't know.
Well, I also know that the county does not pay their people under 36 hours a week insurance. I mean, I know this because my sister works for them and she doesn't have insurance and they cut her off at 35 hours a week so that she could not
Couldn't get
get insurance. So I wonder if that's another, the small.
I mean, I guess what I would say, here's my opinion on this. What I don't wanna do is debate this forever and
Right.
hold off Leanne and Aaron getting
Right.
insurance for months and
I
months
agree.
while we debate, debate these things over and over again. I mean, I guess I would like to clarify that piece
Yeah.
because I have a hard time believing that every PHP thing throughout the state pays insurance for 21 hours and over. If that is, then it's a data point that we need to consider because that would be, we will have another employee likely that is like at least right at the 20-hour thing.
We could possibly have two, too, because our maintenance person could.
1099, different.
Yeah, there's like, they won't get there.
But it does.
So it's much more likely we'll have more part-time employees as we grow a little bit, than we're gonna have a bunch more full-time employees. So I think that is a, budgetary data point. My suggestion is that we vote on what's on the paper here, which is basically our understanding of 36. If that ends up not being true, we'll have to, address that in the policy and come back to you, but then at least we can start down the path of covering people.
I agree with 100% for a single person. I feel like it's important to keep our employees on staff because not only do our employees work for us, but also they generally come and bring their families into the community with them. And I think that growing our community is the way that we grow our budgets and everything else. So I feel like if we can hold on to our good employees, that we should. I also would like to suggest that we make a suggestion and that we don't offer insurance until they've been working for successive 6 months out of the year. So a brand new full-time employee would not be eligible to receive.
They also
insurance.
won't let you do that. PHP says after, like, it's a year, it's a month and then beyond that.
I think there's federal law on that
Mhm.
piece too.
It does say on PHP that employees must work an average of 20 hours or more per week to qualify for medical and dental benefits. This follows Utah retirement system participation guidelines.
Yeah, that's to qualify.
No, but I asked her. and
The
she-
question
no.
is, do we have to offer it if they do that? That was my question. Like according to that sentence, we could elect, we still could say, hey, you have to work 36. But what Aaron is saying is that if they average more than 20, we have to give them insurance. And that's the part I just don't quite believe. But my suggestion would be like, we just vote on 36, like our definition of full-time is 36, we're gonna offer that. And then, we'll have to decide if you know, if we clarify and that's what it is, then we'll have to decide if we offer that or not, bring it back. Because this is not the final policy, we'll bring the final policy for a vote, but it's like, this is directionality. Any other discussion on the health insurance? Um. So, okay, I'll just call for a vote on the 100%, and if that fails, then we'll vote on the 80%. So all in favor of, the 100% proposal for full-time employees as defined 36 hours, say aye.
Aye.
And that's the single,
Single.
Yeah.
aye.
Okay, so no need to go that, we're gonna say for a single full-time employee and not for families. 100%. Okay,
Yeah, maybe if we have a little space on the work session to review anything they find out about that.
yeah, if we find out, if it's confirmed Aaron's understanding, I'm sorry, not to question you, it's just like, it just seems.
Well, because that just totally changes my idea of. Like, that was what I was hoping we could grow slowly with those smaller positions as opposed to the full-time, and if it's gonna be burdensome.
I mean, it certainly leans you toward having more full-time employees and fewer for part-time, right? Because the
Yeah.
part-time will end up being quite expensive, you know, and you're like. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
okay, vacation, holidays, I think there's probably just a slight, misunderstanding in here. But, on holidays, I just suggested that we follow the state holidays, which we looked up is currently 12.
I mistyped that one.
Oh, okay, so
I
it's
agree.
12, okay, cool, okay, so that was just, we were thinking maybe it was like Christmas Eve. And then, vacation, and we did talk about this for a long time, but just to clarify, my proposal is. And we accrue at a rate of 15 annually for this first year, and then it's 1 extra day per year up to a maximum of 25. And you can only accrue up to 1.5 times whatever year is for that. So if you're at 15 days, you can accrue 15 days plus 7.5. And then Gary's proposal, as I understood it, and Gary clarify anything, is we'll say the same holidays, but vacation starting at 15 days per year, but essentially you get more less frequently. So at 5 years, that bumps up to 17, at 10 years bumps up to 18, 15 years bumps up to 19, and 20 years goes up to 20. And then the accrual will be capped at 20 for all people. So even if you're at 15, you could carry over all 15 and then 5 more or something like that. And then the cap will be a 20 days total accrual cap. Does that sound right, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion on the vacation and holiday part of the policy.
I mean, I think the accrual of 1 day per year is a pretty decent incentive for someone to stay on, and it's really not that much extra vacation time. I mean, it's gonna take 10 years for someone full-time to accrue the full amount, and I don't know, I think it's a pretty decent, I mean, I would even go more, honestly, than that, but.
I mean, 25 days is pretty generous, right? It's like, it's you know, I would consider it a generous benefit, like, I don't know. Like the ED does, my job, it's 20 days max. Plus 1.5 accrual, but, you know, in my view, I kind of err on the side of being generous, because we want to maintain people, we want them to be happy, we want to keep them. But, you know, 20 days is a lot, you know, but I think a lot of people get the 20 days faster than in 20 years, but. Again, not a huge difference between 20 and 25, but it's just how fast you get there, essentially, it's, you know, you get there in 20 years versus 10 years.
if it occurred a little slower, maybe the motivation would be to stay longer. Rather than just get it and go. I think when
There's,
That's
it's
a lot
being
of
an
days.
additional benefit, you know, the longer you stay, the more you get versus once you hit 10 years, you're not getting any more.
if you had 25 days on, 12 vacation days. And 15 days of sick leave. They can take off almost a month and a half, 2 months.
Should be awesome.
Could be a lot.
It's a lot for paid to do nothing.
Uh,
I mean, they're
Could be a lot.
getting well paid.
I mean, we are replacing kind of an unlimited vacation policy.
Yeah, I mean,
But I, you know, which I don't think is like sustainable long term, but, one question I had, and I should have asked you this before, Aaron, but I just thought of it this afternoon is, do we have a sense of how much vacation you guys have been taking? Not that we should make too much of decisions based off of that, but it's a data point.
Up until the last month and a half, I don't really track my time, because I work weekends, holidays, evenings, early mornings, so I don't track. I typically take 2 weeks around Christmas and a week to a week and a half in the summer. And then I probably, because of the salaried, notably, people notice I'm not around on Wednesdays. Because I work all of those other times, so I'm not usually around, so I think that I think I usually average, probably 3 to 4 weeks a year.
Any sense on, Leah?
No, I would say that my focus in managing Malia is that she gets the job done, and I feel very strongly that she gets her job done well and on time.
I mean, I guess I suppose I'm good with a mayoral proposal. I mean, I like the 25 days. It is generous, but it's like after you've gotten there. And it's just 15 days starting off. I mean, I think this is fine. I think it's just a little easier to communicate one extra day, you know, the accruement mayoral proposal, but. And I like just the one extra day per year in general, but.
Jocelyn? Or Gary, obviously.
I think that it is. I definitely like the cap on it because I think that, say somebody decided to take 30 days off all at once. It's very hard for us as the rest of the group to function. Missing one of our full-time employees because we don't, you know, we don't have staff coverage necessarily. To do that, so. Yeah, I mean, when it's broken up, it's not such a big deal to me, like Aaron usually does, and not that. You know, I mean, I appreciate Aaron saying, you know, you can't base this on what I do because this is what I do, but it might not be what the next person does.
I mean, that maybe suggests, and that's not this particular point, but maybe we have something in the policy that. You know, any vacations longer than 2 weeks. You know, have to be approved in advance or something like that, you know, cause even with this proposal. If you are at 20 days and then you banked. 1.5, you could have 30 days.
Right.
And yeah, if somebody took all 30 days at once under either proposal, right, like that could be an issue, so we might wanna think about. A policy in there that is something like, you know, vacations beyond 20 need approval or something.
I'd say even just beyond a week. I mean, I think they all need approval. I think they should all be properly noticed, but even like beyond a week, it does impact business continuity and, you know, there's more of a.
But you do want people to take a 2-week vacation sometimes every once in a while, you know, like
To fill power to do it.
yeah. So maybe we'll consider that in the final policies, just some limit on that.
We do live in the land where people pull Grand Canyon permits regularly and disappear for a month.
Yeah, you're gone for a while. Well, if, any other discussion? I'll call for a vote on the mayoral proposal, which is the 25 days after 10 years and the 1.5 accrual. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One opposed. Okay, we'll say that passes. We'll move on to the health leave. The original proposal was 15 days of health leave annually with days not rolling over. And then, Councilmember Haas, 10 days a year, but do you have thoughts on rollover versus not rollover? I think, Linda's point, kind of has me thinking a little bit.
I do, I'd go with the 10 days. If they take any of those 10 days before their first year, they pay it and quit. Same with vacation, they'd pay it back. Unused days would roll over to a maximum that they could carry of up to 20 days.
20 days.
And if they didn't use any sick leave, but
Or if you didn't
if
use
they
any in a
didn't
year.
use any sick days, then at the end of the year, they could sell 32 hours of their sick pay, which would drop them back down. But would save them taking both sick days, and it helps out about Christmas time. If they were able to sell off 4 days of sick leave because they didn't take anything during the year.
I didn't mean sell off, sorry.
It's,
You get reimbursed, you get a, well, you get paid for.
up to 30,
$30
you get paid that 32 hours.
So, but if you wanted to roll over, you could.
Yeah, you'd roll them over
To 20, you could roll up to 20.
up to 20 days, which is what would be 2 years. And if you don't get sick, don't use any sick leave, at the end of that year, you could sell up or get paid for 32 hours of it.
And still roll over, and still roll over.
And then, you'd still be rolling over the new time, but you wouldn't be losing each year. If you didn't take any sick leave for 3 years, that's 30 days. But you would lose 10 days because you couldn't roll it over.
Couldn't roll it over, but you would get paid out for the 32. So you didn't take any days off for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years,
2 years.
But I'm just saying,
Okay,
2 years, you got 20, so that's your maximum what you can accrue. And then if that next year you didn't take any off, you could roll over 20 and get paid for 32. Or paid for,
You can get paid for the 32 at the end of each year.
at the end
What
of
you're
each year.
saying.
Each year, not
So at the end
just-
of 1 year, you'd have 10 days. And you could get paid for 4 of it if you didn't take any during the year. The end of 2 years, say you got paid for it,
And you
so
didn't.
you'd have 6, and then at the end of 2 years, you'd have 16 days. You could get paid again for another 4 off if you didn't take any of them. And so it's kind of an incentive to not get sick. Well, you can't help that. I better back that one up.
well, but to not, I mean, like Linda was saying, we all know the people that like, they always take all their health days, and then we know the people that never take their health days, which is bad. It's kind of both sides are probably not great.
Well,
if
I
you've
mean,
got that
but if
many-
you're a healthy person and you don't take, I mean, if you don't take a sick day because you're a healthy person.
It's just,
Then-
there's the people who work when they're sick and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that, yeah.
I mean, I like the sound of that.
And you've got plenty of vacation days you could take when you're sick.
You have to, yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna be sick, I'm gonna save my sick leave because I'm gonna get paid out at the end of the year. And I'll take a vacation day. Or a couple vacation hours to go to the doctor. Or whatever, but it's kind of a little perk to. The end of the year.
Yeah, like, what's that look like? Kind of. Check is that. At the end of the year.
For 4
4
days.
So 4 days, I think.
4 days of the
So-
salary
Okay.
yeah, 4 days of salary, so for your,
would be,
Yeah, that's nice. Do it.
I like that.
I mean,
I'm not accustomed to that.
the 15 days is. 3 weeks,
Based on the salary. I just did based on 36 hours, divided it by the hours. To an hourly rate. One check would be about $1,100.
agree with your math,
Well, and
for your,
Well, I
for your
mean-
highest paid person currently, yeah.
one of the nice things about that is like, I mean, yeah, you have a little less days initially than the 15. But say you don't have anything for the first year and then maybe the next year you gotta be in the hospital for a bit, or like you have something major happens, I mean, if you could bank days, I mean.
but that's what he's saying, you can bank up to 20.
Right.
So, I mean, what Linda said made me think about that too. I mean, 15 days is a lot, but you might need more than 15 days. In this case, you could bank up to 40. Or, I mean,
20.
banked up to 20, so that's, 5 more days, basically. It gives you 5 more days than you could use if you got sick.
Or if you need a little extra cash around Christmas.
You could use that, yeah. Jenny, any thoughts?
I think that's an interesting, I like the incentive to. Think about how you're using your sick days and I don't know, I know when I was teaching, I didn't ever use. Or it was very rare that I used sick days. I understand that needing them when you got them, but. I mean, maybe that makes you think about if you're gonna take a mental health day or something, maybe you take it out of PTO rather than sick leave or something like that. And I agree that it is nice to get a nice bonus check at the end of the year.
Well, I'm certainly open to that proposal, like the carryover, and what Linda said makes sense to me too, so. I'm happy to ask the mayor proposal and just have us vote on Gary's proposal, which would be 10 days a year, maximum rollover of 20, and you can get paid for 32 hours, or 4 days, if you so elect. Any questions on that? All in favor of that, Gary's proposal there on health leave, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move forward with that. You feel like you properly understood that, Aaron? It was a little complex.
I think so.
I mean, we'll put it in writing, so it's like really clear, but I think we're following. Okay, now moving to postpartum or maternity leave. We did some double checking on this. And the state law, and carefully read it. After reading it, it's pretty clear to me that the state does allow you to stack maternity leave, postpartum leave, and parental leave. That does not mean we need to do that, because that law does not apply to towns. It only applies to the state. But just so that, because these kind of do go together, so that's why I have them on the agenda separately, but so the proposal I have is to mirror the state policy. Which allows for 6 weeks of maternity leave, which you have to take in a row. And then you could take an additional 3 weeks of parental if you're the birthing mother. That 3 weeks could also apply to any other spouse.
That we would pay the other spouse?
What's that?
What was that last?
No, it applies to the other spouse. So like if you're not the birthing mother, say you're the husband or partner of, you could take 3 weeks. So if your wife had a baby,
That's it.
That's
You
the
work for the
current
town.
no, you don't have, yeah, and you work for the town.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I'm trying to make up.
Hey, this is
Yeah.
a great.
You get ready to pay you. No, yeah, if you work for the town.
Just
And
remember,
you're-
3 weeks of nothing is still nothing.
Yeah, seriously.
You'll pay me at my normal rate.
Exactly. But no, yeah, if your partner had a child, you could take 3 weeks. If you had a child, you could take 6 weeks and then 3 weeks. It's clear under the state law that it's consecutive, not concurrent. We don't have to do it that way, but that's kind of the way it's proposed. So, so there's no alternative proposal really under the maternity leave, so maybe we'll vote on that, and then it's the parental where there's a different. Any discussion about doing the 6 weeks of maternity leave? Okay,
For doing the 6 weeks of maternity.
yeah, so all in favor of postpartum leave of 6 weeks, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so really it's around the parental leave where there would be a difference, and the mayoral proposal is to follow the way it is, the consecutive under state law, so that the birthing mother could take 3 additional. And the alternative proposal is 3 weeks paid leave for spouse, but the birthing mother could not take that, like stack that on top. So it's basically 6 weeks versus 9 weeks. The other piece of the parental leave under the state law is you don't have to take the parental leave at the same time. So there, you could have a scenario where someone has a baby, they take 6 weeks. And then later on in that year, I think it's within 6 months, later on in that year, within 6 months, they could take the additional 3. And I think it says something in the law for connection with the child or something. You know, like basically it's if there's other issues going on or you need more time with the baby, but it has to be within that first 6 months. And neither one of these can be taken more than once in a year.
Is it used 6 months from birth or 6 months from the end of?
From birth. The state law is the way it is, so the first one.
My concern would be, we talked a little bit about it too a bit ago, is 9, we've got 2 employees. And 9 weeks without one of them to fill that spot would be, who's gonna fill in that job for 9 weeks? Cause they can't do it intermittently, it has to be 6 weeks straight. They can't take 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week. It'd have to be 6 weeks. And even at 6 weeks without one of them.
It's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Baby, hard. And
And then if you did the 3 weeks on top, and if you did it all right in a row, it'd be 9 weeks in a row. Doesn't have to be in a row, but it could be 9 weeks in a row, which would be a lot.
So I like this, I mean, I like the 6 weeks, but obviously, but I like the additional 3 for the mother. Like one is if there's complications. And that 6 weeks suddenly is not much at all. And they could feel a little alleviation, an additional 3 weeks. Or they bank it for bonding or other events that could arise within that first 6 months.
I guess I don't understand why we're proposing the extra 3 weeks as, I mean. If we're proposing 9 weeks for maternity leave, why don't we just propose 9 weeks for maternity leave? I mean, I think that
The difference is just the parental part is like, it's not just for the mom, it could be for the spouse of the birthing person.
right, but
So that's what Gary's proposal is, that it's just for the spouse, it's not for the mom.
right.
So the proposal, the reason I'm proposing is I just think like, I've never had a baby, but that sounds rough.
I have had a baby. I did have 6 weeks off from maternity leave. I also think that you have, if there are complications, you also have a pretty generous sick leave package on top of that. And if, you know, I mean, if you need behind that, you have a pretty generous PTO package on top of that as well. I mean, I know that it's,
And if it did go beyond the 6 weeks that the town paid for. And like I said, add on sick leave or PTO onto that to keep getting paid. They can take up to, I believe it's 12 weeks. From FEMA or federal, the federal law says that they can take up to 13 unpaid weeks. And still retain their job,
Yeah,
or I think it's 13,
Yeah.
12, 13.
yeah,
But so they'd still have a job, but after 6 weeks. They would have to take PTO. Or sick leave if there were any complications.
to get paid,
Or
yeah.
to keep getting paid. Right there.
I should have said this at the start of it, and I said it last time, I'll just restate my conflict of interest, but even if Malia was not working for the town, I still think I fall under the line of thinking that adding those 3 weeks to be able to use by the mother is a huge benefit that could be provided, especially if there are complications, and I think that's be a pretty awesome thing to be able to offer. It would be really hard to fill that position, especially with how small our town is and how few employees we have. But I always lean on the side of taking care of employees as best you can.
I'd agree with that, taking care of it as best we can, but we do have to look at balancing it's the town's money
Yeah,
that we're spending.
it's true. And they would be eligible, it's 12 weeks, 13 weeks that you'd also be able to take unpaid, is it?
A total, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that it's not such complications that, that comes into play. But obviously you do have health leave, which we said is, 10 days plus the stacking, plus the additional accrual, and then the vacation. Of which, depending on how many years they've been with, the way we voted on will be, 15 days plus 1 day per year of their, how long they've been there. So there is quite a bit, that they could, but like I said, I'm least qualified to, I've not been through this with myself or a partner. And, I hear Gary's point about balancing the needs of the town and the needs of the employee, but. Any further discussion on this point?
would it be possible, the only way that I could see the parental thing might be beneficial is if we require maternity leave to be taken postpartum, which means after the baby is born. The way that I could see parental leave being a benefit was that if there were complications of the pregnancy before the due date, I mean, I know lots of people who've had to go on bed rest for, in order for their pregnancy to be successful. And if that were the case, that you were put on a bed rest type situation, you couldn't necessarily take your maternity leave to cover that the way that we're talking right now.
You'd have to take sick leave.
You'd have to take sick leave.
But you could take maternity leave according to the state law, but there's certain criteria you have to meet. Get the letter from the doctor, all this is why
You're doing
they
it.
need to get this now.
But then you lose that time for the baby's born as
Yeah.
well, and I do agree that 6 weeks is, it's
The
a
same
change in a home.
The same criteria comes under the parent too.
Yeah.
You have to have a couple steps to get it.
Flexibility with it or something.
Like you're saying, there's a way to get it pre-birth,
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah, the state law, which I'm proposing, you just follow the state law, it provides that you can, you're supposed to use it after the birth. To use it ahead, you have to, meet certain, you can't just,
Right.
you have to, like, there needs to be a doctor's reason, like a medical.
I see.
Well,
I think I would vote for the 6 weeks of maternity leave and the 3 weeks of parental leave if you are not the birthing spouse. I don't know that I would vote for the stacking option.
I guess I have a question, if we did the stacking option. That three, so, you know, you've got two people working for the town, a partnership, and one of them has a baby. And they wanna use the 9 weeks, that means that the spouse or partner cannot use that 3 if the one individual uses all 9, correct? Or would it be that,
I don't think each person would.
It's
Yeah.
per the individual.
So if you employed a couple, I think it would be 12 weeks potential.
okay,
No. It would be 9 weeks for the mother and 3 weeks for the father.
Yeah, so 12 total weeks.
We'd have to pay that they would,
right,
one person would be out for 12 weeks.
right.
So
No.
there again, my question is, why are we saying that we're having 6 weeks of maternity leave and then an additional 3 weeks of paternal leave rather than just saying, okay, we're gonna give you 9 weeks of maternity leave?
For me, it's for that space, that up to 6 months later, you've got 3 extra weeks to space in there for the father.
Yeah, that's the difference between maternity leave, you gotta take it all in one.
Right, and then they could, if there were complications or they had a reason to stack all 3 right at the end of their maternity leave, they could do it. Or they could use it for
Following later.
hearing tests and whatever and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and the only, I mean, I know it's a lot, but it's just. My experience is that I was very lucky, like, so I didn't have to deal with anything driving to Salt Lake or Denver and that stuff. So, I just know that getting specialists is difficult out here. You go away for it. So, I'm fine with the 3 weeks for the mother. Well, so. But I understand why people might not like or want.
All right, well, feels like we've discussed it. Much of it, as we did, we should
Should you
do
feel better about it if it was extended to where you could use it before? Birth, is that a possibility or does that have to be?
I think we can make it whatever we want, like, I would just suggest that we follow the state law, that it's like. The only way, you know, under the state law to use it ahead of time, use your postpartum ahead of time with the doctor's explanation signed off by your supervisor. But we can do whatever we want, I think, in this, there's no limit on what we can do. We don't have to do what the state law says.
This is a hard one, this is a hard one because, as it currently stands. Yes, we have a maternity leave case coming up, but I can look at it in the future that if you have. I don't know, I mean. It just seems like we could have the possibility of, this happening on a regular basis, not saying that, we are currently, but that's not for the future. I mean, if you got somebody in who really had, it's possible to become pregnant every single year. And if you have an employee that is using 9 weeks of maternity leave every single year, that's 9 weeks of not working, and that adds up a lot. As it is right now, it's not really a big problem for us,
For,
but it could be, I mean.
for 6 weeks at that rate, it'd be about $7,500 that we paid for 6 weeks of maternity leave. And about 3,700 for parental, or a total of over $11,000 for the 9 weeks of maternity leave. Which I think's a good chunk of change.
On top, in addition to the vacation days and in addition to sick leave and things like that. I mean, that's a lot of money for a small town with not a huge budget. Not that, and it's not something that we would use necessarily every year, but we could come into the process where it was something that we had to use every single year.
And the same can be used for adoption. Foster. So if they, if somebody chose to adopt a child instead, they get 9 weeks of.
I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure the postpartum is for birthing only, so the parental leave you could use for adoption. You can use the parental leave for adoption, but I don't think you can do the postpartum. Postpartum is specifically for giving birth.
Okay,
That's the way I read it.
yeah, I got it up here, adoption leave described in section 283 of it. Has to be used, can be used after 6 months after the adoption. Runs concurrent with leave, with Family Medical Act and the parental runs consecutive with the maternity.
Yeah, but then the maternity is defined as having a baby, so like if you're doing adoption, you're not having a baby.
Adoption leave eligible employee to use up to 6 work weeks of paid adoption leave for the adoption of a young child.
6 weeks.
And that's what we're offering is 6 weeks. Then you can take the parental. On top of
That
that,
would
so
be
you get
9.
9
Yeah,
weeks
that would
if
be
you
9.
adopt a kid.
So there's a separate adoption policy in that law.
Yeah, it's in that code. And for foster,
Yeah, the qualified leave means parental leave, postpartum recovery leave, adoption leave, or foster
So
leave.
adoption is a separate from postpartum. Well, we have to decide if we want to offer adoption. We do so many scenarios here. It's like in the condition of adoption. We want to, provide adoption leave. I guess I would just say I'm still on this, say, just following the state law. Otherwise, we just get into this like almost ad infinitum to go with what we had in the minutes, like different permutations of things that we could allow. So. But yeah, you're right.
I'll show you vote on it.
Yeah, I think we should, I mean, any other discussion, debate on it? All right,
I don't wanna seem heartless because I'm not heartless. I just, can we afford it?
good. I mean, no, you're not, it's like that. And I'm just having any more facts or
Yeah.
discussion you want to bring, like, it's like, it's okay, like, we're not always gonna agree, and we just vote, and like. It's, the vote is where the vote is. All right, well, I'll call a vote on it then. So the mayoral proposal is to follow state law, which would include the adoption policy. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
no,
Well, yes. I don't oppose very often.
It's okay, opposing is okay. All right, bereavement, the original proposal was for 5 days of leave, for the immediate family and 3 days of paid leave for non-immediate, we left that off. And Gary had proposed 3 days and one, after further thinking about it, I thought, I think Gary's proposal is more appropriate, because you could just have a lot of family time off, and it seems like you could use vacation if you need to use vacation, and we have a generous vacation policy that we just passed. So, I'm not gonna have us vote on the original proposal, I'm just gonna have us vote on, Gary's proposal, which is 3 days for immediate family members and 1 day for extended family members. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of the bereavement policy as proposed by Gary, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, well, I really appreciate you guys going through that. What we realized we did not get through last time is we didn't get to the retirement side of the benefits. Because we had a long discussion last time. And so we now need to talk about retirement benefits. Basically the way I would lay out our two options is one would be to go with the Utah retirement system that like a lot of the state employees are with. And then another option would be to go with a separate private 401k plan. The Utah retirement system, is a really generous benefit. It requires you, the employer, to pay 13.19, basically 13% of their salary. We did budget for that. I mean, that's what we did budget for. And you do have to do that for all eligible employees. Of course, if they work part-time, you know, they're working less, and so you're paying 13% of a less of a salary. But it is a pretty high rate. My take is that the state's still doing that because they've gone away from like a pension. You know, people used to get these, you know, pensions, and the state can't afford pensions anymore, but they're, you know, like don't want to go too far away from pensions, so they're paying a pretty lucrative retirement benefit of 13%. You know, an argument for doing that is obviously it's a generous benefit that should help retain people, and also for people who have been previously employed by a state agency, it really benefits them to pay more into that system. So there are some people that might consider working for you that wouldn't consider working you if you're not paying yours. But it is a pretty good commitment of resources at 13.9%, which is, you know, not what you would see in the private sector. You know, like even though my companies are quite good with benefits, it's not that good. Another option would be to go with a 401k through another provider, which is not hard to find, and do a more kind of common matching amount. So, you know, I put this as option 2A, but the employer contributes 3%, and then the employee would match up to 3%. So if the employee didn't want to match any, then they wouldn't get any. That's option 1. Or an option 2B is a little more generous.
Sorry about that. For the folks online, our audio should be back on when we start streaming again. Oh, it still says that we're live streaming. It is still 5:19 p.m. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we are good to go.
Okay. Does that make sense? Like kind of like the kind of more standard, like private sector, not government, would be like 3 to 6% from the employer with some sort of matching element to it. The URS doesn't do matching stuff. It's like you gotta pay your 13%. So you know, there's pros. Obviously, it's a generous benefit, but it is a commitment from the town. One way to think about it, just from a framing from, you know, the two different sides, is we did just essentially pass a pretty generous other policies, non-retirement, and so we could take an approach of taking a little less generous on the retirement side, but still provide it. I think we should still provide something of retirement. That could be one way of thinking, or the other is like, again, with as many employees we have, it's not that much money. And we really want to send the message that we want to retain the staff. So, and that's the framing that I was gonna provide for people that, because we didn't talk about this that much last time. Aaron, is anything else I know was kind of complicated you would add on the
No.
framing on that?
When would you like that decided? I mean, sooner the better, I guess, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this one, is a little less time sensitive, like the health insurance, I wanna let's get it going, we budget for it, let's keep people covered. This is like, okay, one more month without getting retirement is probably not the end of the world. So we could, vote out, if people wanna think about it more, we could vote on this when we vote on the policy, we could just have it written two different ways in the policy when we vote on it in September. Get it written up. But I think it would be helpful if you have a lean one way or the other, if council has a lean one way or the other now, it's helpful when we could just write it into the policy and vote on it all at once.
I mean, I suppose I'm leaning to option 2, but
URS is a set 13.9%. We can't vary from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of offering URS because we have other government, or we have a lot of other people who have already worked for the government in our community. And that could be an incentive for them to continue or to work for us. I think, I think if you could continue to contribute to your URS, that's a big benefit. We have a lot of people, ex-school teachers, ex-sheriffs, or, people have worked for the county in the past. But at the same time, that's there again, another really big price tag for them, starting to feel like we're getting a really big price tag. It's on a really little budget.
A good thing about URS, it would motivate the employee to stay longer,
Right.
because if they get out, they've only got that little bit of
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So the longer you stay in URS, the better off you are when you hit that retirement time.
I mean, that's my thing about the URS, kind of what you're saying. We have URS people who have worked in the system and it's a pretty strong incentive to stay with the town. Or, I mean, I guess you could go to another agency.
Right.
But, to stay with a government agency, it's a pretty strong incentive there. I keep coming back to, it sounds like I'm just spending money but it's like in the overall scheme, like the difference between URS and the 401k, it is only a few $1,000s a year. Like it's not like $20,000 a year, right? It's a few $1,000s a year between 13% and say 6%. So it's not a huge dollar amount, but it could be a pretty significant attractant for people to stay with the town and to come to work for the town.
Yeah, I like option 1.
I mean, not too much in, but we're in the process hiring from this emergency services first. And we have some folks that are applying that have worked for the state,
Yeah.
it might be a pretty good attraction for them.
Yeah,
if they,
that's exactly what I'm thinking. And I can think of a lot of people in the community who are in that, who have worked to, of course, some capacity with URS, and that would be a good attractant to keep them into our funnel of employment. I also, this is, I'd have told my kids a lot in the last 6 months especially, is that, government jobs are kind of the only jobs still that you can actually get a pension or not just a 401k. And I think that's really something to consider when you're looking for long term.
at least my understanding is URS isn't really a pension, but it is like I don't know, you probably understand a little bit more how it works, but it's like, you're paying 13%, it's like a generous 401 versus it's not a guaranteed benefit. I don't think.
It's pretty well guaranteed. At the end, if you've done your 20 or 30 years, whatever the time frame is. What they bank on is they take your money and invest it so that they're making money off your money, and then once you do hit it, you get a set amount every month for the
Yeah,
rest of your
for the
life.
rest of your life. So
And
It's not the
the
pension, that's a
difference. Yeah, I
pension
mean, that's the
life
difference
thing,
to me.
yeah.
It's not like a 401k that when you're 65, here's your bank account, spend it wisely.
You do get a cost of living added on at the end of the year. And if, well, say we did it and heaven forbid, one of them died,
The
the spouse would get up to
benefits.
65 or 75% of their retirement benefit for the rest of their life. So,
And it does, I mean, the percentage does increase with the number of years that you work for,
put in,
or
yeah,
that
you
you
go.
put into this, or that you're having
System.
money put into the system for you.
I've always been one to kind of appreciate anybody who's willing to do public service and work for a county, you know, that sort of thing, but at the same time, like in the private sector, it's not that, you know, it doesn't work that same way, but you usually get paid better in the private sector too, so.
Can an employee add more to their URS contribution? You just get that flat rate, you can't.
Yeah.
there's options you can, set up your own 401k or 457.
Right.
And so you're doing that along with, the URS is growing. So you can,
You could do an IRA or something on the
Yeah.
side, but
But you can't, there's no way to add more big caps out.
yeah,
the
it's
only
about
thing
your
is,
number of years of service. It's really, they're trying to retain.
Yeah, they're trying to retain employees.
and it goes off your 3 highest years of pay, which are usually your last 3.
Yeah.
Like the school teacher, and then sometimes you can get. Yes, but.
But so, yeah, it goes on to the highest 3 years based on when you retire.
How long do you have to be in it to be eligible for,
There's different,
like when you become vested?
there's different time frame, depending when you get in. Like when I got in, it was 20 years for a cop, then they bumped it to 25. It's 30 for a school teacher, but there's an age too, that if you're over a certain age and you work for 10 years, you're vested, but not at the higher thing, so there's a formula that they work out if you get into it.
So what if you're only
Later.
put in for 5 years, then you're,
Well, I can speak to that because I worked for the school district and paid into URS for 5 years, and I still have URS retirement, but it's.
you'll get something, but not a lot,
Yeah, I mean, certainly not something that you could
Live off of.
sustain life off of.
right? But you'll get something, it's not like it would be
something.
wasted.
Yeah, you still get something, it's just not the full potential that you could get if you stayed for your full amount of time.
And you have to wait till a certain age for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
if
could
you've got
really
it at
pull it right now.
20 years and you had to put in 30, you can start collecting at 50.
I think it's a similar time frame as social security is, that you can enter URS.
What was your thoughts, Britt, for leaning, or leaning towards option 2?
None really, it was cheaper, I think she was saying.
Yeah.
Like this. We've been doing, higher end things throughout this, so.
Right.
And being nice, so just. Looking at a way not to be as nice, I guess. But. I'm definitely not arguing for it that much either, but
Right,
you guys
right.
are off with 13 after the 4.
Right, here you're leaning towards URS.
I think the URS is beneficial just for retaining employees and attracting employees in the future.
And what do you think, Gary?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And if that's been the push that we want to retain them, it is a good perk.
Well, it sounds like we're leaning toward URS as a group. We'll keep looking into it and kind of draft it up that way. If we learn anything more that causes us to go away from that direction, we'll let you guys know. But that's good direction, I think, for us as we move forward. Okay, all right. Thanks so much, everybody, for getting through this. It's a big step, I think, for the town to move, in the direction of providing these benefits, and it'll be some work to get them in policy form, but we now have some direction to move in that way. Jen asked that we put on the agenda to talk about potentially providing some town-sponsored food truck area. I don't know if you've thought more about this since last time. I thought a little bit about it, just based off our very brief conversation we had, but let you share your thoughts about this.
Just due to our latest restaurant closure, not closure, it'll stay on the, I mean. I am fearful that not having eating establishments is going to affect our overall budget. Well, I mean, we get a lot from, we get a lot from our businesses, and I feel like if we don't have adequate eating facilities, that we take a ding on it all over town. Kind of a food truck night maybe is something that I've kind of been mulling around, honestly, for almost 2 years now, because when we attended an economic growth thing a few years ago, there was a lady who presented ways that small towns in particular can community reach and be attractive fairly inexpensively. And part of my thoughts with acquiring the brick in the first place was, wouldn't it be fun if we could do a food truck night? And maybe, if it's successful, or if we have the need of it to even expand it past a food truck night, but just having, kind of maybe developing a area where we can have food trucks come and park. And I guess it doesn't even have to be, it could expand past food trucks, I guess, if you got the atmosphere or something. A lot of towns sponsor First Fridays, something like that. If we could have food truck Wednesday, or if we could, just pick a night where kind of just gives people some options when we don't have so many options to present to people. But, it was seeming very crucial and necessary to me last week due to our news. This week, maybe it's not so much, but then this week, maybe it is still something that we really need to look into, I think, as well, because I feel like the need is there, and if it's something that we could do to promote business healthiness. I don't want to step on the toes, because I certainly do not feel like government has any business whatsoever taking away business from our local businesses. So I don't want to present it like that. And I don't feel like this would be taking away business from any of our businesses. It's just a way to kind of take some pressure off, maybe.
Take some pressure off while providing options and making it a little bit more appealing for tourists.
So making it appealing for tourists, but also just, it could be a fun evening for locals as well, as it's food truck night. Here, we don't have this food that comes every week. Or, this isn't a restaurant option. Maybe this is some,
Oh.
And
even if it's on like a day when, say, Russ is closed or Smokehouse is closed, and we've got a area where we could potentially see if we could get a food truck or two from Blanding, maybe one from Cortez, and
well, taking discussion and some planning, because unless it's like you can guarantee a festival type situation all the time, it's not necessarily lucrative to offer it to too many people. But
Yeah.
it just gives, I don't know, it's just something that I've wanted to kind of think about, is how can we incorporate some of the space that we have at the Brick.
well, and there's quite a few.
Or here,
Yeah.
if we could do it here as well, Maybe we don't make it food truck night, maybe we make it Fire Mesa night or something, and somebody can come in and rent the Fire Mesa kitchen. It's just, I don't know, I just thought it would be something that we could develop and to turn into kind of a cool attraction.
Yeah, I think my concern would just be, treading carefully and talking with the businesses in town that you could potentially be competing with.
Yes, I agree, I
And
agree,
try, how would you design it in such a way that it's additive and not competitive?
yes.
Certain times of the year, yeah, that's busy, but there's other shoulder seasons where it's like every customer in the door makes a difference for our
Well,
local
maybe,
businesses.
maybe that's something that we think about, and we only run it when, I mean, we only run it during our busy months of the year, or something like that. I don't know, I mean, it certainly doesn't have to be something that's every night.
Or, to me, like, having a place that's set up for food trucks, you got your electricity there, you got what you need to do it. And then, doing it on more special occasions, like carnival festivals, or maybe a few times where it's like, yeah, it's a special thing and the town folks can come out and it's a special thing but it's not often enough that it would compete with people. I could see like setting up a place where you could do that when it makes sense. But my concern is if you did it too much, like you could easily maybe compete with businesses that want to be successful. We don't want to be, we don't want to be competing.
And that's why I made the caveat that I do, I totally don't feel like it's our role to take business away from any of our businesses. That's not my,
I mean, with that in mind, is it something that we could just, vocalize support for? And willing to hear options, going forward, but is this something that Bob could help out with in the actual
yes,
deciding on it, deciding on if there's a food truck night, or we just have spots available, yeah.
well, I would definitely want, but I would definitely want the businesses' inputs on, is this a totally bad idea, I mean, I feel like our business owners, if they felt like we were stepping on their toes, they would certainly stand up and say, hey, you're stepping on our toes.
Yeah, I guess I would like to send a message that we want to get their feedback on the idea and. I would certainly would be okay using some, we have some capital improvement, some capital funds that we've set aside for things here or at the brick and like. It doesn't sound like it'd be a big investment to put some electric in or, to make it feasible. And then the question is just like the work it is to attract the food trucks and get them at the right time. So if you're willing to maybe take it to Bob and get their feedback, I think that will be the next step and see what people think about it.
I love getting a food truck, but it's normally during an event and it's like, everybody's mobbing it if there's not multiple. So it'd be awesome to have a more leisurely interaction with food trucks.
Anything else, folks, on this? All right, we'll ask maybe if you want to talk to folks, you can let us know when to bring it
Yeah, I
back
can,
for further discussion.
Yeah. Try to get a poll on that.
All right, we've had a fairly lengthy agenda. We'll go fairly quickly through a few looking ahead and reminder pieces. Coming up in September, we'll be bringing forward the legal consultant RFP decision on awarding that. Hopeful that we can perhaps do the interviews on that ahead of time and be ready to have that vote in early September. We'll keep you updated on that. Actually, over the weekend, got some chance to work on a housing consultant RFP, but I'm not quite done yet, but trying to bring that to you guys next month. We have a meeting coming up on secondary water, and I'll bring up with Patrick whether it makes sense to come to the council with a bit of an update of where things are at on that. There's another item that I didn't put on here, but that I'll give you a heads up, but I'll bring up for discussion probably at our first meeting in September, whether or not the town wants to take a position on Proposition 7, which is the sales tax for EMS. So that's probably something for you to be mulling around in your head, whether or not we as a town want to take a position. We are not allowed legally to spend any money to promote, a proposition one way or the other, but we can take a position that we think it's good or bad or what have you. And I'd like to have that discussion with the council, whether or not we want to take a position. So those are the upcoming items, are on the mind. In terms of reminders, We are looking at doing the joint P and Z meeting on zoning on September 15th. Which would be just ahead of the public meeting. So I would encourage people, if you can, between now and September 15th, you got just about a month. Read the zoning ordinance and see if you have ideas for what you think we ought to be tweaking. You know, that ordinance was put in when we created the town. It hasn't had a lot of changes other than adding the things in like for the RV ordinance and stuff. So this is our opportunity to kind of reopen that discussion. And so if you get a chance to read that, that'd be great. Guessing that Gary's read it more recently than a lot of us since he was on P and Z. But that open house is on the September 17th. Again, just a reminder about the annual convention for Utah League. You need to register by the 29th of September.
To get the best rate possible, you can still register.
Early bird, yeah, for early.
We want early bird.
So if you're gonna go, just decide until we can get the early bird. We did set a date for emergency services pancake breakfast, and the kind of annual event we've done, and in the past, it kind of ping pong back, like this year it's gonna benefit the fire department, and this year it's gonna benefit EMS. We're gonna make it as it benefits emergency services, and then we'll use that money as needed by fire or EMS, and they allow them to come forward with needs. So that'll be on the 19th. This year it's gonna be at the fire station.
The 19th of September.
September 19th, yep. And then trying to call the ball, but we're also gonna host here a candidate forum on either Tuesday the 29th or Wednesday the 30th. And that will just be an opportunity for residents of Bluff to meet the candidates that are running for the open positions at the county level. So there's an open sheriff's department, open county commission seat right now for our area. And we'll invite those folks to be very informal. The candidates will have like 5 minutes to talk. The town won't be taking any positions or anything. It's just an opportunity for people to hear. And then it'll kind of be a, walk around and ask people. It's not some public forum where people are asking a bunch of questions. It'll be more of a meet the candidates night. On the 19th.
When was that again?
Sorry, the 29th or the 30th.
Okay.
Just, we're trying to decide between those dates, but I'll let you guys know ASAP. I'll try to call the ball on that this week. Just a couple of other quick others. I wanted to give per our discussion earlier, I wanted to get a heads up that I did sign a letter of support for the Bears Ears Partnership in a grant request they were putting into the BLM to do some good stewardship lands on the lands around Bluff and in the greater Bears Ears area, not specifically Bears Ears Monument, but in our backyard. It was kind of a time sensitive thing, and we've done those letters before. Didn't say anything political other than we support that good work. But I wanted to give you a heads up that I did sign that letter just because it was time sensitive. And then the final kind of other that I'll maybe let Aaron bring forward is a new opportunity we have for potential vehicle donation from CERTA. So if you don't mind kind of talking folks through on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was looking at, since we have a more formal roads department and we have a lot of people using their personal vehicles for town related work, hauling stuff and this and that, that it could be potentially beneficial to have a town vehicle. And so when I reached out to our partners at CERTA, just asking if they had leads, they actually said, well, we have a couple of vehicles that we're thinking of disposing of or donating. And so they actually just got back to me like 15 minutes before the meeting, and they were curious if we were interested in a 2009 like express cargo van. So it's a 2-seater, it's 2-wheel drive, which is why they're trying to get rid of it, because it doesn't necessarily get them to all of the like crazy spots that they go to. But it would just be a full donation for town consideration. It would be, we'd have to pay for the maintenance and the fuel and everything, and then insurance. And so if you all were interested, we could pick that up when Malia and I go to Price for the CERTA meeting on the 9th of September. And if you need more information, I just got some pictures from the guy. It's just like a white white van, with all the seats removed, so you can chock it full of stuff. It is kind of, you know, pros and cons to like a pickup truck versus this. Pro would be like, keep stuff in there, and have it protected, but except it still runs and everything. It's just not what they need for their teams right now. And so it would be a free to us, asset.
So my thinking on this is kind of basically twofold. One is the question is there a policy decision here that the town council needs to make? If so, we couldn't make that tonight because it wasn't on the agenda, because we have to we have to have policy decision on the agenda. My personal opinion is that as long as we have budget for insurance and we have budget for maintenance and those sort of things generally in the budget, which we do, that this could be an administrative action that the mayor and the town manager take to accept a free donation. But I guess my question would be, would anybody have a concern that this is a policy decision? And therefore we should agenda, a decision or a vote on this for the first part of September. Otherwise, I'm inclined to be like, we have a free vehicle, we have a need for it, seems to run. No reason not to just move forward with that. But if anybody had a concern about that from a policy standpoint, then we could figure out what policy we need to make and put that on the agenda for September 1st.
I don't have a problem with the acquisition of the vehicle. I would like for us to develop a policy about, I think it's pretty standard that you would develop some kind of policy about driver training. I don't, I just when you're, when you're working
Can't
for
drive
the school
drunk.
district, you have to take your driver training class before you can drive a school district vehicle. So I think that's where we might need to develop the policy is who, and
Yeah.
Santiago, just because your mom works for, is on the town council, you can't drive. the
Right,
town
who can
van,
drive
you
it?
know?
Yeah.
So that's where I would say we might need to develop some policy.
Same, that's what I was thinking. Not policies obtaining, policy,
Right.
once we have vehicle, like, yeah.
All right, so it sounds like folks are okay with us taking the administrative action of taking the donation, and then that we'll work on vehicle policy, which should be pretty easy to find from our peer towns that, similar policies, and we'll bring that forward to the council for a policy discussion.
I have one or other if I can. We had our TTAB meeting last week, which Aaron did a pretty good report on. But one of the questions that came up was, why did the BLM take our Bears Ears sign down? And is that something that we can question the BLM about? Because as far as I know, our boundary didn't change.
Our boundary did actually change.
Oh, okay.
But it changed from the original reduction that Mr. Trump did a few years back. But I have a similar question because where that sign was is still in the monument.
That's what-
So I
yeah,
don't
that's what I
understand.
thought, so why
So
did they
it did
take it down?
change, I mean, the monument did change,
Right.
but where that sign was, I don't understand why that sign was taken down. They were taking the insignias of the tribes off,
But didn't they do that first and then they took the
and then
sign
they
down?
took the sign down, so I think that is a good question, and certainly something that I feel like would be reasonable for us to ask of Mr. Palma at the BLM, and just, is there a reason, like, it's still in the monument, could we
And it's,
still not
it was a
have
fairly
the sign?
expensive sign, and are we gonna
Yeah.
have to? I just don't understand why they took it down.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, I'm looking at the map right here, it's like, it's still in the monument, so that's, I just didn't understand why that one went down. I could see other places where it's no
Where it's
longer
not
in the
in the
monument,
but-
but like, that is in the monument, so. Seems a reasonable request to me, so. I'll take that on, Aaron, to shoot, Mr. Palmer an email, and we can see if there's a discussion that we can have about that. Okay. Thanks for raising that, Jen. I recognize it, but I hadn't thought of like do anything about this yet, but. I mean, to me, it's a town benefit for us to be
It's-
close to
it's
the
an
monument.
economic
It's still the
benefit for
monument,
us.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, hearing no other discussion items, we'll adjourn and thank everybody for your time. It's 5:50. Good work.